This is Love Your Villain, where we step into the arena and peel back the mask. The place we stop pretending we're okay and start getting curious about the parts we've been taught to hide. The angry, needy, jealous, anxious, avoidant, addicted, manipulative parts. The part that lashes out or shuts down, pushes love away, isn't broken. It's your story trying to speak. The villain you've been trying to silence is actually the part of you that needs the most love. Here, we don't shame the villain. We listen to it, get raw, intimate, and honest, while practicing being perfectly imperfect. I'm your host, ILA Cassman, and welcome to Love Your Villain.
I am here with my delightful, amazing friend, Simone. We are going to be talking about the kinky villain. Yum. And all of the deliciousness of that cool villain. How do you think the villain personally shows up for you?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think the most obvious villain that I have is like the pleasure seeker, hedonist, not putting your integrity first, but just being like, let's just go and be greedy and lustful and sinful and go and get what we want. Which I think people are sometimes surprised by because I'm very much like the good girl.
Yeah. That's the other side of the good girl, right?
Yeah, that's where I've gone wrong.
Okay. Has that damaged relationships of yours in the past?
Oh, yes. Yeah, it's caused some pretty painful relationship challenges. To be honest, I don't think I ever really let it out for a long time until I was like 31.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I was actually very restrained. Had it little glimpses. My ex-partner that I was with for 12 years, we were very free with each other. So I remember once being on a hen do in Greece and I was like, having the best time with this guy, just dancing as if not kissing. And he's like, I can't believe you have a boyfriend. I would never let my girlfriend do this. I could feel that little villain side having such a great time, but it was all above board. I think it was later in life where I've let that actually break boundaries and do things that I deeply regretted and really hurt people and caused a lot of pain.
Do you think that there's something wrong with that part of you?
No, I don't think it's been a massive journey to go on to let that part, like, let it breathe. When it went wrong was trying to squash it down and not acknowledge it. I feel like in acknowledging it and seeing it, I can be like, okay, you don't control me, but you also have a lot of gifts to show me. And so I think that's been a huge thing of being like, oh, what are like the gifts in this? But I don't need to let it drive the car.
What are the gifts that it's given you? This hedonistic version of your villainous self.
The biggest gift has just been really knowing my desires and celebrating them and going after them. Because it's actually, what is life about if it's restrained? It's very like the Protestant ethic of must not have pleasure and must just live this kind of really restrained life that I think often that culture comes through in our world. My ex sent me the nicest birthday card the year after we broke up. I don't think I've ever felt more seen by him in that card after we'd separated. And he was talking about how I was such a hedonist in a really good and healthy way. And I was like, oh yeah, help me. I was like, yeah, that is a gift to be pleasure seeking, sometimes in hard moments. How much juice can you squeeze out of life if you get one time on this earth?
Yeah. How much juice? Is there a limit to the juice?
And the more juice, maybe sometimes the more sourness. You can't just be in juice. Sometimes things run a little bit dry.
You need to rehydrate?
Yeah.
Okay. Has this side of you led you into this new road that you're paving for your new career?
Like working with sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely yes. It's funny. I was just with a university friend last week and we were talking about looking back and seeing where these passions actually had signs even when we were like 15 that at the time maybe you didn't recognize. But I think I've always been someone that just really enjoys, what's the word, like the pleasures of your loins, like dancing and massage and sex and all those things. And it's free and something's like available to everybody. available at any moment in a way. The more I started to see that and shed light on it, the more I was like, oh, this is actually something that I think the world needs a lot more of, and often we don't create space for. And that somehow I have a huge gift in it, but I have some ability to tap into that maybe, or just allow it more than others. People starting to comment on that, and me noticing it was like, oh, actually, this is something I would love to do for work. I would love to help more people tap into this. I think because I always thought I'd work in like sustainability. I was like, I want to try and support the world from that lens. But this is kind of sustainability. If we were all just having more pleasure, we would be buying less stuff to try and make us happy. And
100%. It's so freeing and healing, right? To allow yourself to receive pleasure. I think many people can give it.
yes,
Probably more women or females, or the feminine is more open to giving. It's a lot easier to give than it is to receive.
interesting.
Do you disagree?
I know we've got this stereotype in society that women's pleasure in sex hasn't been put to the forefront and men don't give. For sure that exists in pockets of society, but I think actually you look at a lot of men, they really pride themselves on giving. And actually men often really struggle to receive.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, for sure women as well, because we
Yeah.
have the people pleasing and giving. But I actually think a lot of men, when you're looking at giving a massage or even talking about like oral sex and stuff, men struggle to really go and just fully allow themselves to receive.
Interesting.
I was chatting to someone about it yesterday. I think it's why so many really high-powered men seek out dominatrixes,
Right.
things, right? Because
Yeah.
how often do they really get to receive? Like they always have to be in
They're
charge.
always giving, it's true.
They're often the initiators of sex, and then the journey's put on them.
Yeah, and it's interesting that it's always been the opposite for me. I've always been the instigator. It's mostly been because I haven't actually trusted that they're going to please me the way that I really need. In my younger years in relationships, there would be a lot of masturbation during sex because that was how I was going to have an orgasm. In many ways, it loses your connection with each other because you're so inwardly selfishly focused on yourself. Because I want to get to climax, you're going to get to climax no matter what. I don't really care.
Just go on our own journey.
They're having a supportive journey for me. They're the supportive role.
It's a hard balance because I think there's also owning your pleasure. Often you can get there better if someone's just in a bit of the wrong spot and you're like, honestly, we'll both be able to relax more. I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But I think your point on trusting someone to actually give you pleasure, that's huge, right? And can I trust myself enough to tell them what I want?
Yeah.
If someone's down there fumbling around and you're like, oh my God, I wish they would go slower. I wish they would move a little bit to the left, and you're maybe nudging them a bit with your hands.
Weird hips.
Also on us to own our pleasure.
Yeah.
I think that's the bit we often miss. Oh, this person needs to read my mind. And like, sometimes that works. There are some people that are just really attuned, or their style really matches your style. But then we think that should always happen. That's something I've been on a massive learning journey of the last few years, actually communicating to people. Because I love things slow and sensual, and so I assume, doesn't everybody?
Yeah.
Oh no, some people want it a different way. And so actually just learning to do that. Oh yeah, if I tell them, then can I surrender to that experience?
You've heard this before, but these people out there, you haven't heard this. And so it might be like an interesting tidbit. The best sexual experience I've ever had has been with somebody who we communicated with each other the whole time. Each time we were in the act of sexual play, he could take direction very well and was able to receive that and do exactly what I was telling him to do. And it is a form of dominance and submission for him to not have any ego around it. It got to the smallest, finest detail, like point your tongue and move it in this direction and just get lighter and a bit harder, and eye contact. Some people might think that's distraction, but it was mind-body connection. It was like such a turn on. That wasn't distracting. I was feeling everything he was doing because I was telling him to do it exactly the way I wanted it. And it was just this like magic.
Oh, amazing.
It was so, so good. I mean, it also took a lot of energy.
And you might not want that every time, right?
No.
But you can be in that. What you were saying, like you were still connected.
Yeah.
That's a huge difference. Am I in my head, which is normally not a place for pleasure?
No.
But am I just connected to my body and things are flowing? Could be different. I'm really grounded. It's funny having the cat here because I feel like animals, they're such a teacher of this. They want something and they just come up and they butt you with their hand. I just tried to tickle his tummy and it kicks me away. It's like, nope, I don't. And you're like, yeah, there you go. They really show you.
Yeah. My cat is in betweener.
That's
Beginning.
exactly what he wants.
My cats have been excellent teachers for receiving and teaching reception. Hello, darling. You're right. I see them with jealousy as an example and how natural it is for the emotion of jealousy. They don't know what jealousy is. All they know is you have what I want right now and I'm not happy with that. So I'm going to swipe you or I'm going to like stare at you until you leave. In our world, that would be classed as abusive. It just got jealous and you just went and smacked them in the face. That's uncool. But in the animal world, that's their natural response is, and how they communicate is, get out of my space. I want to be there.
Yeah. But I think the thing, right, we need to be able to express that, like, all of these dark emotions when you think about the villain or that. I think the bigger problem is that we shame them. And the emotions themselves isn't the issue. No. Whereas if you're allowed to just say, oh, I'm jealous right now, or I'm scared, or I'm lonely, often even just saying it, expressing it, okay, don't hit someone else, is enough for it to start moving through.
It's true. These guys don't hold grudges. There's no animosity afterwards. They know. She knows that he was mad at her or whatever. And then if they go on their merry little way, there's no shaming or embarrassment.
What did you say? We're talking about the kinky villain. I feel like that's the concept I really like in kink, that you can bring in, like you can play out these dark sides and actually give them a chance. It's a bit like improv, right? It's like you're really giving these characters and these ways of being that might not be acceptable. It might not be acceptable in the middle of a dinner party. Start stomping your feet and being like, my partner's giving so much attention to this other person and I hate it. But you could play that out in a scene.
Yeah.
And you're some bratty little pissed off girl. And you can really get into that. And then your partner can play with that. And that can be really fun, I think, and healing.
Yeah, absolutely. We are so conditioned to see emotion, especially these negative experiences, it's a terrible way to behave. It's natural for us to feel jealousy. We feel like we're going to lose somebody or if our insecurities and triggers have been sparked. And I love that, bringing that into a healing, safe, secure environment where your relationship has the ability to create space and depth for you to play around with that, rather than this emotionally immature, blanketed conditioning mindset, which so many of us still have, which is if you are jealous, you're wrong. You're the problem. This is your shit, sorted out. And if you're in a couple and in a relationship where there's love, no, actually, it's the relationship's problem.
Jealousy is not only just a little smoke signal that there's something that needs to be
100%.
It can be your own insecurities, it can be the other person, it can just be the relationship. I think that was my biggest learning from exploring polyamory, that I feel like all monogamous couples and every type of couple should learn about, is how to communicate around jealousy.
Absolutely.
Why don't they teach us this?
I engaged in a polyamorous relationship purely to overcome jealousy, because I knew that jealousy was the underlying current of all of my control issues within the relationship or relationships, many over these years, and that I would essentially, my go-to and method of control and safety was to emasculate and prevent them from hanging out with any female people that I was threatened by. And then because they loved me, they would do what I wanted, and then I would lose respect for them.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then I would lose sexual attraction to them. And this is a pattern I played out in many relationships.
And do you think in the polyamory, because you talked about getting over the jealousy, but I feel like it's not actually about stopping feeling the jealousy. It's just about learning to go below into what that's.
Exactly. And like why, what the core reason for the jealousy. And what it ended up coming back to for me in those relationships is not feeling validated by the people that I was in the relationships with. And then going a deeper level underneath that was I wasn't validating myself. And so I had to stop dating anyone and learn to self-validate. I feel like that's the piece that we're collectively not really taught, is how do we validate or learn to validate ourselves so that we have an easier time in relationship when somebody isn't giving us the affirmations that we need to feel safe and secure in the relationship.
Yeah. It's so hard because I feel like when things are good, you can do it in a way. And then it's like actually in the hard times when you need it the most that you find it hardest to give to yourself. But for sure, it's the secure person, right? It's who loves themselves, who has that self-validation. But I also think sometimes we go too far in saying everyone just has to have their own back. It's also very fair to be a bit like, we can be dependent on other people in some form. Maybe it should be spread between friends, families, partners. Well, it feels really good to get validated by other people. But also learning to ask for that, not just expect your partner to kind of give it to you in a way that maybe they have a different love language, you know? They're like, oh, but we spent last night together because I love you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me how amazing I am. I always think that's why people get dogs. Just so you arrive home and someone shows you unconditional love and you feel like a total hero.
It's true. It's so true. I mean, these cats are a little bit like dogs in a sense. Like as soon as I enter the house, they're like at the front door. Really, they just want food.
Yeah. But it's all really mad to what they actually want. No. It can make you feel loved.
No.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, the self-validation is huge.
How has diving deeper into the world of kinky sensuality has really healed you?
Firstly, as a Brit, I have to be like, I'm not on a healing journey. I didn't need healing. So I stop all this healing. I was healed already.
I'm perfect.
Get over yourselves. My mum messaged me the other day, we were talking, and she's like, I hope you're not becoming like all those Americans we met in the rainforest in Bolivia when I was 16 and we stayed at an ayahuasca retreat, not knowing. And just always processing. And I was like, it's a fair call out. I think not everything necessarily needs healing. But what it's taught me, huge parts around like communication. I say boundaries in maybe slightly different way than other people might always think about boundaries. I've normally been pretty good at stating boundaries I don't want crossed. I've been really lucky in that sense of being respectful men and people in my life. But I think what I haven't always been so good, I've often shut things off sooner than I needed to because I didn't want to let someone down or reject them. I think that's linked to boundaries because I'm basically worried that eventually they're going to want to cross something I don't want to go into.
Yeah.
And I'm going to have to say no to them. So let me just make it concrete. Say, I've met someone nice, we're having a nice dance together, it turns into a bit of a kiss, and they want to start exploring my body. And I'm thinking, okay, well, I don't think I want to sleep with this person and I don't want to necessarily go any further, but I'm enjoying this touch right now. To save myself having to reject them after they've given me pleasure of touch, I'm okay, no, and just call it off at that point. Rather than what I've learned to do recently is communicate, hey, I'm really enjoying this. I have a story in my head that if I receive this, you're going to want more, and I don't think that I want to go there. So I just want to check in with you. And for some people, they're like, yeah, cool, I don't want to keep giving you all this pleasure if there's nothing in it for me later. But for a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'm really enjoying this too. Like, maybe we can be in this with no expectation. And keep it open to where that goes. I think just that shows up in so many different ways, where often we're layering in expectation with anything we do, or not wanting to name desires because we don't want people to have to then reject the desire, even though we'd be okay with the rejection. Things like that, they get very circular, and it's like, why don't I just be clear and direct and see what comes from that?
It's something that even you right now speaking about that, my mind and young adult self felt triggered. I felt a triggering response because so often I have not engaged with people and currently not engaging with people because I don't want the expectation put on me that because I'm allowing this making out and touching, that's going to turn into. And I mean, I remember when we went to Friends Club and you were having this dance with this gorgeous man, and right at the end you were like, you set out the expectation, like, what would you like to do? Like, we can hang out, or we can do this publicly, or we can do this privately. You could see him just like, that's really refreshing. And I was in awe of you guys. It's such nice communication. There's so often, I feel like many of us don't engage in intimacy in that way because, especially as women, there's the expectation that if we do, it has to lead to sex. I would never allow somebody to buy me a drink when I would go out it.
Yes.
Because I didn't want them to think that that meant that they were in.
They own you for the evening now. Oh my God, I remember that when I was a teenager. Oh, if this guy buys you a drink, you got to hang out with him for a bit. And I'm like, okay, I don't want to be the person accepting the drink and running away. I've definitely done that a number of times as a teenager. But just allowing that person autonomy, their own autonomy, and being like, great, I love the drink. That's not a contract. And that's on them as well. If they've got conditions attached to what they give and they've not communicated that, then that's also, they need to go on their learning journey.
Yeah, I mean, no man that I know is ever going to be, hey, would you like a drink? So just so you know, the expectation of buying this drink is that you're going to shack up in this corner with me, we're going to make out all night, and then I'm going to take you home and have my way with you. No woman would also be like,
yeah, they would. Those have to be named. But I remember, I think we were in Vegas when it's like stupidly expensive to get anywhere. And I think men at that time, at least, was like 10 years ago, basically had to buy a table. And these guys in line being like, hey, ladies, would you come in with us and have some drinks with us? Because we also need you to get in. And we're like, yeah, sure, we're on our own journey, though. We're going to be dancing. We're pretty clear with them. And they're like, yeah, that's absolutely fine. Come and pop into the table when you want. No expectation. And I think actually we ended up spending quite a bit more time with them because it's like passive anyway, because you feel free, you can come back to it. You're like, oh, these guys are actually quite nice. This is quite fun. And there's not this really gross feeling of being locked into something but expectation.
no one wants that. No one wants that.
I feel like I had something else I wanted to say though. Oh, on the often we don't allow ourselves intimacy because of the expectation of sex. What's crazy to me, even talking to so many couples, is how that still shows up when people have been together 5-10 years. They're snuggling on the sofa. The guy starts touching. It's classically this way around. I think it can be both ways. Guy starts touching his partner. Although they're enjoying the touch, they push them off because they don't want sex that evening. Instead of actually just allowing whatever is present to be there. Being like, yeah, great, I can enjoy this touch. Again, you might just need to be really explicit in communicating that. This feels great. I don't think I'm up for sex, but can we enjoy this intimacy and connection?
Yeah, I think that the push away is super rejection-y for anyone who's wanting some intimacy.
It's so painful.
Yeah, I think sex has been predominantly the only way we have intimacy. Like, sex is the number one way that we have connection intimately, which is just complete bollocks.
Yeah.
It's much more than that. It is very much this old school, it's a very masculine approach
about all the other ways that the queer community teaches us a lot as well, right? I think that's where kink is really cool.
Yeah.
Because you can have, we've experienced some very nice floggings together. They might actually have no sexual energy at all in them.
Yeah.
But they're very intimate. There's so much attunement and connection and like, it feels incredibly intimate, but there might be absolutely no even skin touching skin I think often there is maybe a bit of a stroke for that. You have that conversation in boundaries.
Yeah.
There's no kissing. You might not feel at all aroused, but you just go through. I'm trying to remember some of the songs. It's often with the music, so it just takes me through this whole journey, and I feel so connected to the other person with no sexual touch.
Yeah.
What most of society would consider intimate touch.
Flogging's an interesting one because we typically associate somebody whipping another person, someone abusing the other person, and that form of dominance is traumatizing. Right? I've watched people in a flogging scene that were really in it to hurt and take as hard as possible. There's no love. Maybe there was intimacy between them, but that wasn't my idea of intimacy. It was just really to inflict as much pain and suffering on the other person. And that person clearly wanted to feel that level of pain.
But that might have been what they wanted from them.
Yeah.
They might have actually wanted no connection and to be
100%.
entirely in their own experience.
Yeah. Which to me on the outside was like really harsh and it felt brutal, and it was in public because it was at a party.
And quite triggering.
Yeah. And I was like, whoa. And I'd had experiences of flogging that was completely the opposite, where there was so much love and care and so many other sensations like ice and cold, hot therapy almost, and nails and wind blowing. And I think there's so many different other sensations. So I knew for me that whatever was going on there felt gross. And then this husband and wife couple came on the same pommel horse and started doing their flogging scene. And it was divine to watch it. He just loved her so much. I know it's really hard for people to get their head around physically flogging somebody and how that could possibly be loving. But there is this energetic flow from this man's heart through his arm, through the flogger, out of the flogger, whatever the flogger things are, the tail, onto that person, like this energy that's intoxicating. And as an observer of that, it's pleasurable for everyone around to witness that. There really is such a massive difference with that level of intimacy, and something that I've never quite experienced in any of my previous relationships outside of the kink world. A vanilla relationship.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I don't know what I'm going to do with this one yet, but that's something I'm really passionate about, and I don't know what it will end up looking like. But I think if you're not towards it and you've never seen it, it's actually really, some people are quite intuitive and maybe do things like this in their own intimate lives. But often it's some other lover or someone that has shown you something. And for me, the experience I had with that Dom earlier this year, that was so beautiful. I feel like that, even though it was like just a couple of times, taught me so much, because I could then tap into that and bring my own style to it and do it to other people. And I think that's what I'd love to teach people, is just show them, here's a little menu. You go make it your own. We all have different, some people want to play the dirty uncle was their kink character that they loved. And I was like, that's not my character, but great. We each have our own flavor of many characters. I was like, really? Sorry if that's true. But I think there's just so much to learn, and you might never use a flogger. You might see it on flogging and you might say, actually, that's something I want to transmit through massage or through spanking or through rope or through just silk ties or just an energy. It doesn't really matter what tool it is that you're using. But I think just being shown these ways that we can have intimacy that don't involve sex and don't involve needing an erection or needing to be wet or needing to even be aroused, which is often pressure, right? It's like, oh God, I've actually been with someone a long time. I'm sorry, but it's not like they can just touch you and kiss you. And you're like, oh, I'm so ready. I want you. You might want that connection with each other. It's actually what I love about massage. It's like I got into, it was probably my first lens in, was like sensual massage. And just that was a form of connection. This is making me want to go and scene with someone.
Last night I was watching mindless garbage, but
don't admit it.
I'm going to admit it, that I got sucked I get sucked into these reality TV. There's 2 reality TV shows that I have been sucked into. One is Love is Blind.
Oh, I've heard it. I've never seen it. I need to watch it.
This one is Perfect Match. Last night on this episode, one of the dates that these people got to go on was a rope date
Oh.
on frickin' TV. They showed 2 little snippets of her being tied up and him being tied up. And there was directional teaching from the facilitator.
Right.
They had her, it was just so nice. Her hands were behind her head, and then this nice little crisscross thing, like with the red rope. And I was watching that going, first of all, that turns me on. And second of all, this is on TV.
Yes. That's amazing.
So like more and more people are, this is what we're needing, I guess, or wanting. The P and the V ain't doing it. The majority of us anymore.
Amazing. Especially if it's being shown in a healthy way. I feel like so often the dynamics that are shown on TV are so narrow, which is great. There's aspects of that that can be great for people, but often none of the container is taught. Like the safety with rope, right? You can't just tie someone super tight without knowing some of the risks and show it. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
Like it was actually being done.
It was tastefully. And it really was bringing connection to them. It wasn't sexual stuff.
Well, I was
Nice.
dying laughing last week. So I was on the glacier hiking and my friend had me roped. She's a more experienced mountaineer. And at one point we'd been using rope to get up these ladders because they're really high ladders. And at one point she was like, I'll just keep you on the rope. And she's walking along. We're doing this traverse and I'm just on a leap behind her. And I was like, I was like, it is so simple. Just being walked around tied up. It feels good.
Yeah. Overly tied, just casually tied up. Yeah,
I felt held.
Yeah, my cat just,
He's giving you a cute hug.
he's very cute.
He's very cute.
He's so huggy.
That's actually adorable. He's like big enough to give you a hug as well.
He has hugged me with his paws around my neck.
Oh, you're too much.
You're a bit special, aren't you? Little baby bear.
I think about what are maybe some of the challenges of exploring any of this and allowing your villain. Something I always think of devil, actually exploring that and allowing it space is not always easy for the people around you. And there can be a lot of shame. That's probably just the thing I want to name is if you don't have self-worthiness and belief and self-acceptance and feel very strong in yourself, actually, it can be hard to deal with some of that shame. And I think of that in 2 examples. So one, that very beginning of what I talked about right at the start of when I acted in ways that were absolutely not things that I was proud of and wished I hadn't done. The hardest part of all of that, I could understand what had happened, basically why my inner child had surfaced in that way and why I'd acted in that way. The hardest part was the shame from other people, because I think other people find it so much easier, and these people love to be black and white. There was just a lot of judgment rather than wanting to surface this conversation. Wow, okay, you did something pretty bad. Where did that come from? Our society still has quite strong narratives on certain topics like cheating, even though I wasn't the one cheating, I was being cheated with, especially the woman. That's one area where it's come up. And then the other area being in the kink space, people from outside or in polyamory telling my non-polyamorous friends at the time about feelings of jealousy. They're like, well, why don't you stop? You shouldn't go then. Why is he letting you feel this way? Or like exploring kink and being like, talking to friends outside that space. They're like, oh, I hate the idea of like male dominance. That feels so controlling. That's like domineering. Just to say that this isn't all accepted in regular society.
No.
I feel very lucky to have found this amazing community where we can express and explore and people kind of understand. But that's maybe just something for people to be aware of and be gentle with yourself if you're starting to explore these things.
The kink community it may be expanding, but it definitely still is a minority group. I feel like Vancouver in itself is so open and fancy free in many ways, right? You could do and be whoever you really want in this city, and I think the majority of people would be fine about it. I've had conversations with my mum about kink, which is triggering for her because it triggers male dominant abuse. My take on that was it's not really empowering as a submissive person who you're in deep communication with and you've formed a connection that is based on trust.
Yeah, to be able to actually go through an experience, which is maybe similar to something that was traumatic, but where you have power and power and agency can be like incredibly healing.
Yeah.
Or to have the opposite experience. If you were abandoned, you might want to feel deeply accepted.
Yeah.
You might want to feel abandoned again, but go through that with agency and
exactly.
control. I think the other thing is also like even within Vancouver, there are certain parts of the scene that maybe aren't so conscious and aware of all of this stuff.
Yeah.
So people might dip their toe in
Yeah.
and be like, oh, this is kind of gross. Or like I've seen lots of things that I'm like, oh, that doesn't appeal to me. I don't know what's going on in reality, but you sometimes have to find essentially out the conscious spaces and people that are talking about some of the emotional sides and just using a bit of discernment, because I think there are a lot of people claiming if you go on Field and you look for a dom, there's lots of people claiming that a dom, they have no idea. So also just to flag that as well.
There is that other side, the villainous side to it for sure, right? That is actually the villainous side. It's like, oh, people are on Field. Field is, for those out there who don't know what Field is, a dating app for the kink community, right?
Yeah, kink and like non-conventional relationships.
Yeah, right. I've had some experience on that app. I don't go on any apps now, but previously where I was looking, I'd made the assumption up that anyone who was interested on being on that app is interested in, and who is saying that they're interested in polyamory means that they want to have many relationships. It's not putting that they're into polyamory up on their profile, and that means they think they're just going to get set.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a trope of like, oh, there's easy women. They're really kinky, they're into sex.
Yeah.
I can go out and get that. That's definitely a risk.
Yeah.
The number of people that say they know they're a dom and then you're like,
no.
It makes me want to go out there. I love being submissive, but it makes me want to learn and be dominant for more people just to set examples. I remember doing my little dom station at the back of that party, which were little micro dom experiences. And there was this kind of slightly odd guy, to be honest. I was a bit unsure about whether I was willing to dom him. So I did quite a distanced experience. And he was like, wow, thank you so much. That's really taught me. He's like, I've always been in the dominant role. I've never been submissive. And that has taught me a lot about these sorts of experiences I want to give my submissives.
Interesting.
And I was like, oh, okay, that inspired me and was like, I want to do more of that so that people can learn this is what it can be like.
Yeah. The dom relationship I was in, we had a contract. I loved it. It was such high level communication, and anything that came up, we would write it out in this contract that we had. Oh, some boundaries were crossed. Were they hard boundaries or soft? Are they a game changer, or this is definitely going to end the relationship if we cross this boundary? There were so many things, because so many things happen in relationships you forget, right? And this is just to make everyone accountable for their actions and behavior in the relationship.
That's really cool.
It was super cool. I think more people need to have contracts like that in their relationships.
Even if it's just a starting point for a conversation, right? It doesn't always have to be, okay, we're going back to this black and white contract all the time if you're using it in a regular relationship.
Yeah.
But having that as like, oh, let's have this conversation. There's, I think, a relationships smorgasbord, I think it's called, in the relationship anarchy community that has, again, all of the areas you might have boundaries or agreements. And that can be like a really cool conversation starter for these things. It's like, oh, what do we think about going on holidays with people? It forces the conversation. You don't need to come to an agreement on every single thing.
Yeah.
You just be kind of aware, because we all come in with such different expectations.
100%. Just going back to how kink can be used and utilized as a tool for healing past traumas. As an example, some people who, and this could be triggering for some people, but like some people who have been raped want to be in a scenario where they're going to be raped.
Consensual,
non-consent, yeah. And so it's all very clear. The person who's you're stepping into that, know all the boundaries, all the things are sorted out.
The safe word.
And how we as a society aren't comfortable with looking our demons and our villain in the face. We want to remain a victim to the forces who have abused us or traumatized us in some way. And instead of turning around and facing what that's showing us or teaching us or how we hold on to it, and it keeps us in this victim state of this person did this to me, and remaining in the trauma in many ways. If we don't have the ability to, first of all, forgive ourselves for putting ourselves in that position to begin with, because no matter who you are and what scenario you've been abused or traumatized in, you will always, the rumination and the spiraling doesn't necessarily come down to what the person did. You microscopically pull it all apart and you think to yourself, if I had have made that move, then that wouldn't have happened. If I didn't walk in the park at night, late at night, that wouldn't have happened. If I didn't have that last drink, that wouldn't have happened. If I didn't wear that short, skimpy skirt, then that wouldn't have happened. That's the play out that we ruminate and spiral over. They're the things that keep us up at night. How could I have allowed myself? How did I not see that happening? How did I not see them put the roofie in the drink? And you end up blaming yourself. And so it's not necessarily the remnants of the trauma isn't necessarily the act itself. It's the how did I continue to stay there?
I've never had any big trauma, so I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth of what their experience has been like. The two things I've heard, having agency when you get to reenact something, to me speaks to being the opposite of what you're talking about. How did I let you feel you're trying to take some control, but actually, of course, it wasn't.
No,
I had no control.
Yeah.
Having agency, and then also allowing the feelings to complete their loop. Because I think that's what I've read about PTSD is like,
Yeah.
you have the emotion gets stuck because it's not allowed to complete because something was so shocking, so horrifying. There can be something about allowing those emotions to actually run a loop. But
Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist, nor
No, we are not psychologists. I've had a lot of trauma, very much cycled through. That's been my biggest takeaway is once I realized I have to forgive myself for the things that were out of my control. That was my number one method of completely healing, which, by the way, took many years. And asking myself, what am I afraid of? When you put yourself in scenarios where you could be hurt, all you're doing is exercising some form of emotional fitness, because at first you don't really know how to respond to some form of emotional abuse or behaviors in that way. And then the more you come up against it, because the more you come up against it, the more experience you get with responding in a way that's not self-abandoning, it's more empowering.
right. Yeah.
And you've seen it before a few times now. So you're like, oh, I know how to respond to this in a way that's going to be calling the person out. But just bringing it back to playing out scenes and scenarios that one would normally be running away from is definitely a method of facing the fears in a safe, contained environment.
So I'm saying like everyone should do
No.
I think it can play that role for sure.
Thanks, Simone, for joining me on Happy Rebellion.
This has been super interesting.
It's been a great chat. Yeah. And peace out.
Peace.